You can produce some beautiful wood chip mulch using a chipper like this one here from DR. We love knowing that all the mulch we use on our gardens, orchards, and pathways is 100% on farm and doesn't have any diseases or contaminants brought in from elsewhere. But doing this does involve some skill to get it done efficiently and safely. And over many years of timber management here on our homestead, we've worked out a number of tricks and methods for doing this the right way. So today we're going to share some of those with you with regards to how to get a tree broken down into something that's ready to run through a chipper. But first, we need to get a tree on the ground. Now that the tree is down, limbed, and bucked into millable logs, it's time to start processing these branches for chipping. Although we're working on a cedar tree here, we use a lot of the same methods for hardwoods like oak or hickory. Keep in mind that certain hardwoods are not really suited for chipping. Things like slippery elm will end up wrapping themselves around the chipper axle and clogging up your machine rather than chipping cleanly. And just a word of warning, don't ever try to chip dried okra stems. I know they look woody, but it'll cause an ungodly mess. Don't ask me how I know. Maybe that's a future video. In the meantime, we need to get started on these branches, keeping in mind that anything we want to send through the chipper needs to fit through the chipper chute and into the hole before the knife. So the first step in prepping branches for cedar mulch is to separate dead branches from green. Cedar trees especially have a lot of dead branches like this lower down. And while these look good for chipping up front, there's actually a lot of problems with them. First of all, they're very hard, and they tend to dull your blade faster. For the similar reason, they're dusty and vibrate a lot, and it's really unpleasant for the operator when these are vibrating and shaking right around in front of you. They're also not very flexible, so it's hard to process them and get them down into the chipper. They also tend to tangle up really easily, making it hard to do them in batches. So over time, we've just learned not to deal with these. We sort them, we set them aside in a pile like this, and deal with them another way later. What you do want is the green branches. These are softer, they're nice and flexible. You can work with these easier and they produce a really nice mulch. They don't tangle up as bad. So this is really the most efficient branch you want to use, stuff like what's behind me over here. Choosing the right size branch to run down your chipper is important. Using something too big can actually clog the chipper and even be dangerous and dull your blade really bad. Most manuals will give you some idea of what the proper size is, but it's also something you learn by doing. And the thing the manual won't tell you is it varies a lot by the kind of tree and what the condition is. For example, cedar is pretty soft, so I can chip bigger pieces of cedar than I can chip of oak. Now in our chipper, it's about a thumb and forefinger, about like that is what's safe to go down. So something like this is pushing it. I probably wouldn't chip this piece. That's going to clog up the chipper. But something like this, that's probably okay. That's going to run down and produce some really nice mulch. And something like this is just fantastic. This will run like a breeze. But if I was chipping dead cedar, I probably wouldn't chip a dead cedar branch bigger than this, based on my experience. And honestly, same thing for something like oak or hickory. I don't think I'd run something bigger than this because it's such a harder wood and it's just going to batter the machine and the blade more. So read your manual, but also take the time to learn what feels right and what works right in your chipper and prep your branches accordingly. Now, most of these branches are going to need some trimming to get them to fit in a home chipper. We're not using one of those giant industrial chippers like the big tree crews have. So you can't just take something bushy like this and expect it to go through. You got to do some work. And this can be done either with loppers, so something like this, to start trimming off the branches. Or you can also use a hatchet, which is honestly my preferred method. You just pull the branch up, start working your way down. Giving it a haircut, getting it kind of smooth so it'll go down the chipper. Now what you're trying to do is figure out the minimum you need to remove so that it'll go smoothly in the hopper. On our chipper, we find that if you can compress your hands around it like this, it'll probably go down. So on this, I can kind of get my hands around these upper branches. All of these are going to bend and slide down the chipper easily. This is also why working with green stuff is good. But this big branch here, that's really hard to bend over. That's not really going to work. So I need to remove that. So a couple more cuts here, and I think we've gotten ourselves to something that's going to fit down the chipper. So it sounds inefficient. Really, once you get a habit of it, it goes really fast. You just get in a zone and you clean these up and you start moving them. And really, it's not that bad. Trimming these up is the single best way to make your chipping go efficiently. Because if you don't do this, you're going to spend all your time jamming and fighting on branches trying to get them in. So do the prep work ahead of time. So I've got some prep branches built up here, and notice the way I've got them arranged. They're all carefully sorted by size and stacked neatly with the butt ends facing out where I want to access them. This is so much better than just piling them all in a big tangle and coming back for them later. Do this as you work and you'll be grateful. So for example, I've got some of the dead branches set aside here for later use. I've got some big ones over here and a few small piles, getting smaller and smaller as we go over. Each one of these is a pile that I can then drag off or deal with without it being a tangled mess. Now, with really large branches, you may end up wanting to cut them down. This one here, this is probably chippable, but it's awfully long, and it's going to be awkward and uncomfortable trying to put that in the chipper. So I'm probably going to cut this one off about here and make 2 chippable pieces. That'll make life a lot easier. Notice I've got this set aside, not in a separate pile, not combined with others, so that I can remember to do that. Now, if you're going to chip right on site, these are already arranged with the butt ends forward, right where I'd put the chipper. If you're going to haul these off, like I'm going to do these, to a different chipping site, this still makes it easy to do. If you keep these piles small, you can just pick up this pile, drag it off, and get it over there, then start a new pile. If you make one gigantic stack, it's going to be a pain in the butt to disassemble and get where you want to go. So just think ahead, plan out your piles, and make them always easy to disassemble and move whenever you're going to do your chipping and moving. It's worth keeping even your waste material organized. Here we've got a pile of little green scrap that's too small to chip, and some dry stuff that I just don't want to chip. Notice that both of these I have organized into simple piles that are out of the way and easy for me to get to. When we do our logging, we don't like to waste any part of the tree. We do have specific purposes we're going to put these things to use. What that is subject for a different video, but by keeping them organized, I can get to them easily later and not have to pick up a giant mess. This also keeps the workspace safer and more efficient because I'm not stumbling over this stuff all over the ground. You can still see the chipping branches in the background I've been working on, and it's worth noting that these piles are from multiple trees that I've taken down, not just the one that's featured in this video. But doing this kind of organization really makes life easier in the long run. And just like that, we've broken this tree down into milling logs, chipping branches, and some neatly stacked piles of scrap material we can use for other projects. But right now it's time to haul these chipping branches over to the chipper and make some fantastic wood mulch. That's a subject for another video.